But look how I use my thumb, y'all. See how I'm using my thumb and I'm kind of pressing in as I roll and I press and I roll and I press and I roll. That's how you do it. And then it starts sticking to your hand on the bottom. See this little part where it sticks? So you just kind of dip it in the flour and put it back on your hand and keep going. Good morning. It's Tammy with Colored Valley Cooks. And yes, it is morning. I am hungry. I'm in one of those moods where I want something that sticks to the ribs. So we are going to make some rolled out biscuits like my mama used to make. I'm so hungry and ready for some. So let's get started. I'm in my moo-moo like my mama always wore. My mama always made rolled biscuits. So let's get started. You're going to start, I'm using King Arthur flour. I've got a skillet here. I've got my King Arthur flour. I've got my milk. I've got my sifter with some flour in it. Let me grab my Crisco. Today we're actually going to roll our biscuits like my mama and my mama did. My granny cut out her biscuits, but my mama and my mama rolled them. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, make sure your hands are clean because you're going to use your hands to mix it up. You're not going to use a blending fork or anything like that when you do biscuits like this. You're going to take your flour. This is King Arthur unbleached flour, and you're going to press it against the bowl like so. My mama had one of those big Tupperware bowls. If you remember what I'm talking about, they were real big and kind of shallow. And she kept her flour in that bowl all the time. She never, she just put the lid on it and put it back. She actually kept it above our stove. It was just a convenient way for her to reach up there and get it. Because we had an oven in the wall. So that's the way you want it to look, okay? You want to press it down into the bowl like that. It's nice and kind of packed. And what I might do is actually bring y'all in even closer when I start mixing it up. Okay? So, first you're going to pat down that. We're going to put a little Crisco in our skillet. I'm going to go over here and turn on the hot water so that it's nice and warm when I get ready to wash my hands. Okay? Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab some Crisco. You usually use about a 1/4 cup in a 2-cup recipe of biscuits, which is enough biscuits to fill up our skillet, okay? So that's about close to a 1/4 cup. We're going to throw it in here. I'm going to use buttermilk. Now, Mama and Mama used sweet milk to do their biscuits. I just have a hard time wanting to use sweet milk to make a biscuit, so I'm using buttermilk today. If I did it exactly like they did it, I would. I'm also going to throw a pinch of soda in here, not because I have to, but because Granny did. Not because Mama and Mama did, but because Granny did. And I just like the way it tastes in a biscuit, okay? So we're going to put a pinch of soda in here. And now all we're going to do is use our hands, y'all. That's all there is to it. And believe it or not, you just got to put your hands down in the milk and squeeze the shortening through your fingers, just like so. I'm going to put a little bit more milk in here. That should be enough. Now, once you squeeze your shortening up, you get it separated good, then you're done with your shortening. Let me get it off my fingers. Then all you got to do is start mixing it around and letting the flour go into it. I could throw some of this loose flour down in there. Now, roll biscuits do not rise as high as cutout biscuits normally. Cutout biscuits will actually rise higher if you knead them about 6 or 7 times before you cut them out. And a lot of people think that you know, they don't need to knead them much, but you really do if you want a nice fluffy biscuit. Now, nice biscuit that rises up high. Now you can see this is forming a mound of dough. See how it looks? And I've had people on my site tell me that their daddy made biscuits without any shortening, or they would make water cornbread. I mean, there's all kind of recipes that people made back years ago, and that's just how they did it. That's the way their family grew up eating it, and that's the way they like for it to taste. Now, start kind of squeezing it together once it starts getting a good bit of flour in it. And the reason you're doing this is because you don't want it to be knotty, okay? It's in a real good consistency, so it's looking good. But it's not quite ready to roll. Now, my sister took care of my mama and pawpaw. They both died in their 60s, but mama taught her how to make a biscuit exactly like she did. I was never taught, I just watched, okay? There's a lot of things in the kitchen you can do by just watching. That's why I decided to start this cooking show, because I wanted people to learn how to make stuff just like the Southern way. See how that's all broken up? You don't want it to look like that, so we're going to do this. I wanted people to know how to do stuff the Southern way, and there's really no way to do it unless you watch somebody and you learn by watching, because a recipe does not do Southern food justice, okay? Unless you were raised, you know, and you know how to make the recipe. All right, this is about like I wanted. I'm going to go rinse my hands, and I'm going to come back, flip it over, and then we're going to start pinching them off. Okay, now my hands are dry and clean. I'm going to put a little flour on them. I'm going to take my mound and make sure that it looks decent. And it does. And I'm going to start pinching some off and putting them in my thing. So what you want to do is you want to make sure your hands got some flour on them. And you just want to pinch off a little bit of the dough. And then I always tuck this part underneath on the bottom of my hand. Make sure you got flour on your hand. And you're going to tuck it under. And then you're going to gently, it's like a cloud. It's so light and fluffy. So you're going to gently roll it. I mean, it is light and fluffy. It's real light. Let me close this door to see if the lighting gets better. The outdoor light's coming in. I've got my back door open, listening to the birds this morning. Anyway, you want to roll, 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 and see how it's sticking? And you just kind of keep tucking it under with your thumb and rolling it until you get a pretty, you want it to be pretty all the way around. You don't want it to be all just pretty on the top. There's a rolled biscuit. It's fluffy, it's light. We're going to put it in here. Now, it just takes some practice, y'all. Like I said, I'm no pro. This is not something I do a lot. I hardly ever roll a biscuit because my granny cut them out and I cut them out, okay? I don't hardly ever make them this way. So really, I'm not the best at it. But they turn out good. I mean, there ain't nothing wrong with them. It's just not something I do a lot. And once you figure out how to do it, it's not hard to roll them. That one was in quite a bit more little pieces, so I'm taking my thumb and kind of tucking it under the bottom as I roll. But look how I use my thumb, y'all. See how I'm using my thumb? And I'm kind of pressing in as I roll, and I press, and I roll, and I press, and I roll. That's how you do it. And then it starts sticking to your hand on the bottom. See this little part where it sticks? So you just kind of dip it in the flour and put it back on your hand and keep going once it starts sticking like that. And you just barely roll it. I mean, you don't put a lot of pressure on it because you want it to be light and fluffy. Okay? There they are. They'll be delicious. Okay? We're going to put these in the oven at 450 degrees. I had a little bit left. But see, Mama would just keep her bowl like this, and then she would make her biscuits her bowl stayed like this, and she'd put a lid on it, okay? Because this is the only way she made biscuits. So she just kept it that way. I'm going to go wash my hands. Put them in the oven. Start some gravy. And slice up a cantaloupe. And this is a 1% milk. You can use, you know, whatever you got. Mama always had whole milk when we were growing up. This is self-rising flour. I'm just sifting it in. Now, I've always just used a regular wire whisk. I'm going to put plenty of pepper in here. I like a lot of pepper in my gravy. And a good bit of salt. Mama always used a wire whisk, and I have too, but I just had a Facebook friend to send me this through my wish list. I have a wish list on my website, www.coloredvalleycooks.com. She actually sent me this. It was not on my wish list. It was something she liked to use to make gravies and sauces, and I love it. It works really well. It lays down in the bottom and kind of, you know, helps you pull the stuff up from the bottom, which is nice, instead of it just being a round whisk. I think it does work better for gravies. So what you're going to do is you're going to add your flour, and I usually add about a half a cup or so. I like for it to look kind of fluffy. Not get real dry, but kind of look fluffy like this. Okay? And now we're going to wait for it to brown. I'm going to turn up the heat some. And once it starts browning, I'm looking at our biscuits. Once it starts browning, then we're going to add our milk. Now, it's starting to brown and I can smell it. Once it starts to brown, it starts giving you, you can actually smell it, and it smells good. That's what you want to wait for. Once it starts browning and you can smell that good smell, that's when you add your milk, okay? I actually have a recipe in my recipe book. I actually use a little butter in it, but I don't always put butter in my gravy. Mama never did. I put it in there just because so many of y'all want a little butter and everything. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, if your gravy gets too thick, then you can just add a little bit of milk and whisk it, and it thins it up. It's starting to thicken now. See how it's bubbling up? Alright, it's ready. I'm going to turn this off. Now, I've got gas, so I can actually turn off the eye. Woo. Perfect. I'm going to check the bottoms of them. They're not brown yet, but I'm going to see if they're getting brown on the bottom, okay? Because I hardly ever, I don't always do biscuits in this. Woo, they're pretty and fluffy. Pretty and fluffy. And they're not even brown on the bottom. I'm actually going to, I mean, they're really pretty, they're fluffy, they're pretty much done. You can tell by looking at them. I'm so happy y'all tuned in to Colored Valley Cooks this morning. I hope y'all have a wonderful, blessed day. Thanks for watching Colored Valley Cooks, where we cook like Mama did.